Okay guys, it's finally time. After all these years of having a tube amp collection, I finally have an amp and cabinet switcher. In fact, this is the new KHE 4x2 amp cabinet selector, the Mark II version to be precise. And today we're going to explore this unit a little bit. I'm going to tell you about this thing and what it can do. We're just going to have some fun since I've never had a device like this, okay? Now quickly, for the rig of this video, I'm holding my Kiesel Aries Custom, my Joker edition, if you will. It's going into my pedal board, maybe for some effects here and there. The pedal board is going into the switcher. The switcher has these two amps in the loops, if you will. And this is being fed into my Grossmann Fatbox 1x12, in which I've loaded up my Celestion Vintage 30. That's mic'd up with 3 mics, 2 SM57s and 1 MD421 Kompakt. Right now I have amp 2 selected, which is the orange Dual Baby 100. And then I also have the Peavey 6505 MH hooked up, which is going to be amp 1. So real quick, let's take a listen to what we have going on here. So again, this is the orange. That's a solid state amplifier. Sounds really good. I love it. 100 watts. This, of course, is a tube amplifier. So let's go to the tube amp. So more modern, more fierce, a bit more bright, etc. So those are the two different amps that I have hooked up. And yeah, I'm having a lot of fun here. It's hard to stop playing when you're having fun. Anyway, why did it take so long for me to get an amp switcher? For crying out loud. I have so many amps, right? For me, usually what I do is I just grab an amp off the rack, put it on my cabinet, connect it to my ISO cab, and then do all the work sort of like that. You know, it's a simple workflow. I don't have everything hooked up and everything. I think it would be too much to have everything hooked up. So, and in that case, what would be the point, right? And when I'm showcasing products and stuff, I want to get them visible for you and put them on the cabinet so that it looks nicer. So that's just not really my workflow. And it hasn't been like that, you know, ever since I started the channel, which is now, I want to say 10 years ago or so-ish. But I did get one now because I want to do more live amp comparisons where I just have a couple amps together and I just can switch between them, right? So this is a similar scenario. 2 amplifiers, 1 cabinet. I also didn't have enough speaker cables to connect more amplifiers, but that's beside the point. I have a bunch of comparisons planned already that I'm going to use the KHE for. I want to compare my orange OR30, which is back there, to the OR15. I want to compare the Engel Lunchbox amplifiers and a bunch of stuff like that, you know. So this is going to come in very handy, and that's why I got one. And this is the new one from KHE. And yeah, it's very solid, simple, and compact. And I don't need more than 4 amplifiers, and I'm not really going to use it to switch between cabinets. So in this case, it's only hooked up to 1 cabinet, my ISO cab. I don't need to switch between another cab, at least not as of right now. So what does this thing do? The 4x12 amp cab switcher. Well, obviously, you can use it to switch between 4 different amplifiers. It could be a solid state amplifier, it could be a tube amplifier, it could be a combo, it could be a head. You can't use more than 1 amp at a time, and it's a mono unit. Note that. And you can choose 2 cabinets. You can switch between them, or I think also use them at the same time. Again, I'm only using 1 cabinet and 2 amplifiers at this time for this video. Instead of a cabinet, you can also run reactive loads at the back here. So you don't even have to have a real speaker. You can also have 1 or 2 reactive loads hooked up and use it that way. So that's also nice. And it seems like a simple unit, right? But it has a bunch of features externally and internally that make it very professional and really well thought out, because this thing really is made with a lot of care and attention to detail, and it can really help to protect your gear as well and prevent you from doing stupid things. So it's kind of foolproof. But yeah, as I explained, multiple amps, multiple cabinets, right? So again, we can switch between 2 different amplifiers. Once again, this is the Peavey 6505 MH. Simple as that. And I really like it. I really like that functionality. Now this is the Mark II. I haven't owned the Mark I, but the Mark II now comes with rack mounting brackets, an attenuator insert loop, which I'll explain later. Linking functionality has been added, and the safety features and functions have been improved as well. So that is great. Now again, you can use two cabinets at the same time or choose between two cabinets. So that is nice if you want to A/B different speakers or different cabinets. And what I really like about this thing is that it's so foolproof, so that your amps are protected at all times. So, you know, you can make mistakes by pressing the wrong switch and stuff and nothing bad will happen, basically. I love that because sometimes I am an idiot. So the amps are protected by load resistors at all times, and there are a bunch of safety features and functions that keep your amplifier safe. For example, no amplifier can be activated when there is no load connected to the unit. The unit also has cabinet detection, so when there is no load or cabinet detected, they will be excluded from the signal. There's also input muting, so unused amplifiers will be muted at the input. And there are dummy load resistors in here to protect the amplifiers when you're not using them. And there's also an overload protection, which is like a buzzer that you will hear in the room if something is going wrong. And there is voltage and system monitoring. I'm not super technical, but anyway, it's like super well engineered and you're well protected against being an idiot, basically. But I highly recommend, if you get one of these things, to read the bloody manual, because this thing goes really in depth about the connectivity, what it can do, what it can't do, how you should be careful with certain things. So I'm really impressed with this user manual. Really cool. Read the manual, kids. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that it can handle up to 150 watts RMS. So don't go above that or you might fry the unit. These aren't super high wattage amplifiers. This is a 25 or 20 watt amplifier. This is a 100 watt amp, but I'm not running it super hot or anything like that. The manual and the website also state that this thing has a very clean signal flow, so there's no sound coloration or degradation. There are no ground loops or hum issues, which I can confirm because it sounds very clean and silent so far. And it has silent switching, so relay switching. Let's try that. There seems to be a very small gap in between the switching. I think the switching doesn't happen under the switches themselves. I think it's a relay switching system, and that helps to keep it all very silent and clean, I guess. You can also control the unit via MIDI. So that's cool. There's a MIDI connector on the back. So you can have this in your rig and switch between amplifiers when you're changing patches and stuff like that. And it's made in Switzerland by Marcus, the guy behind the brand. And he makes all the units himself, I think. And like I said, it's like beautiful craftsmanship, beautiful engineering, really well made. And you can really tell when you hold this thing in your hand and when you're flicking the switches. Now, we also have the attenuator insert loop, right? Which I'm not using right now because I don't have any cables left. I will get some cables, I promise. But that can be very handy for inserting an attenuator like the Reload 2 by 2 Notes, or the Fryette Power Station, or the Boss Waza Tube Amp Expander. You can have that in the loop and then attenuate the amplifiers that you're running through it. If you're using solid-state amplifiers, be sure to use an attenuator that can handle that. In my case, I'm not sure if my attenuators can handle solid-state. I think the 2 Notes can, but I'm not sure. But another benefit of that is that those units all have effects loops. And that means that you can have a global effects loop behind all the amplifiers to run delay, reverb in, and stuff like that. So that is cool. That is quite convenient, especially for people who like to use like time-based effects after the amplifiers. So that is cool. That's a cool feature, right? What also is cool is that you can just have pedals up front. So I have my pedal board down here. You don't need to see it right now, but let's try these amps with a boost, my Zuda Triax boost, and let's switch between the amplifiers so that we can try the boost with different amps. So that's without the boost. That is with. Sounds really mean, right? Yeah, so that sounds really gnarly. I tweaked the amplifier a little bit to accommodate the boost. Now let's switch between the 6505 MH and the orange and see what that does. So the orange is behaving really different than the 6505 MH with the boost. So let's tweak the amplifier a little bit to accommodate the boost. Yeah, there's some weird low-end stuff happening there, but you get the point, basically. Boost up front of the orange and boost up front of the 6505 MH. And boost off. Boost off with amp 2. It's really fun to be able to hear and feel the difference between the amplifiers on the fly, which is something that I've never been able to do in my studio until now, because I now have this unit. So that is cool. But I don't want to make this video too long of me just playing some random riffs. Let's take a quick look at the unit itself. So on the front, we have a guitar input. You also have one on the back. Then you have the 4 amplifier selectors. Then we have the 2 cabinet selector switches, this control switch over here. And then on the back, again, we have a guitar in as well as a tuner out. You can send a clean signal to your tuner or use that as a DI track for reamping, etc., which is convenient for sure. And then we have 4 amp inputs. Those are the ones up top that go to the inputs of your amplifiers. And then below there, the blue jacks are the amp outputs. You connect the speaker cables to the speaker outs of your amplifiers there. And then a speaker 1 and 2 output and the attenuator insert loop. And then we also have the MIDI in jack as well as the control in. And of course your power connector, and this thing does come with a power adapter, so that is convenient as well. And as I mentioned, it also comes with the rack mounting brackets or rack ears. So yeah, it's a cool little unit, and I'm really going to use this on the channel for various amp comparisons. So, you know, you'll be seeing this more on the channel. What are my overall thoughts? Works really well. As I told you, I have this in a very basic setup right now. Just 1 cabinet, 2 amplifiers, you know, a very simple use, perhaps the most simple use. In the future, I'm also going to use it with 3 or 4 amplifiers. I might have the attenuator in the insert loop. I'm not sure yet if I even need that for my channel, but it's convenient to have that feature for sure. But it seems really sturdy and well made, and it feels very safe to use, especially when you're reading the manual, when you're reading about all the protection and all the precautions that are built into this unit. It feels really safe to use as long as you use it in the proper way. So again, always read the manual, kids. So thanks a ton to Marcus for sending this over to me and for sponsoring this video. I really appreciate it. Check out the KHE Audio Electronics website. I'll put a link below. And let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, because I'd love to know. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons, as that really helps the channel out. I really appreciate it. And of course, you can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And if you want to support this channel, you can get something in my affiliate links for Tomon, Sweetwater, etc., or get something in my own web store like a quad cortex capture pack or an IR pack. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers. I'm going to do some riffing and then fade the video out.